As most of you are probably aware, today is Star Wars Day because May the 4th be with you. And I thought in honor of that I would do a little sort of retrospective on Jabba's sail barge and how it's been portrayed in merchandising, I guess, and toys, collectibles, things of that nature. Now, most recently, of course, the sail barge has been in the news because Hasbro decided to finally make a toy version of the sail barge. There never has been one before. And famously, they decided to sort of crowdsource it by asking people to commit ahead of time and pay ahead of time to buy a $500 Star Wars vehicle that they're not even going to be getting until next year. Well, one way they decided to sort of take a little bit of the sting out of that was to give the people who have backed the barge this booklet. This is, of course, Behind the Workbench from HasLab, which is their new sort of, I guess, crowdsourcing website. And I thought, first of all, I would just take a quick look at this. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but this did come a few days ago, and it's a fairly nice little booklet. Seems to be, well, 62 pages long, and it focuses on, first of all, well, the making of Jabba's sail barge, obviously, but not just the toy, but also the film. So it goes on about some of the concept artwork, how they designed it, the blueprints for it, the actual barge that they had. And they did actually make a full-size barge set, although it wasn't fully detailed on both sides, as I recall. This was in California, Buttercup Valley, as I recall. And they actually had some behind-the-scenes footage and photos from that time, which is a little bit unusual at the time. Here we have design elements, and then finally going into more about the toy itself, how it's long been a fan favorite or requested item from fans. It shows how they've designed it, some of the individual pieces that are going to be going into it. This is a particularly impressive photo here, or illustration, I should say. They're apparently going to have all these pieces, some of which will be attached by the customer upon receipt, but most of which will be pre-assembled. And we have some cross sections showing Jabba in his little throne room area. The cockpit looks very impressive. I will say this does look more detailed just based on these renders than the typical Star Wars vehicle does. And look at that. We have the little jail cell. That's going to be fun. And then they have this pretty cool little thing in the back where they have a sort of an onion skin version, so you can see the blueprints and lay them on top of, I guess, a more of a, computer illustration or rendering. And finally we have sort of the full thing there. So that's that. But as I said, I wanted to show you what has been made for the barge in the past, and really, if you think of, for example, how many X-Wing toys or various other ships have been made, there's not that much that has been made for the barge. Part of that is just the reason that they've never made this before is just the size. But even when you're talking about small models or things that don't necessarily have to be in scale, there haven't been that many things. So I should be able to show them to you all in one video. Here we go. So I think I'm going to be going through these roughly in chronological order. I'm not going to be too picky about it, but this is certainly one of the first items that has ever been produced. This was from a vintage Return of the Jedi Punch Out and Make It book, which I will show you an image of here. I'm not sure where my actual copy of it has gone, but it's around here somewhere. And the idea was that you would cut out, or punch out, I guess I should say, some of these cardboard pieces and then fit them together with the little slots that have been pre-cut. And you'd make your own sail barge. They also had the skiff and a few other Star Wars vehicles. And, this is surprisingly nice, really. It's very cool model. It's quite large, really. And for a long time, ironically, this probably would have been the best thing you could get if you wanted some kind of sail barge collectible. Rawcliffe was a company that put out a lot of pewter collectibles, especially during the time of the Phantom Menace, I guess. They had quite a line of them. And they've also put out some ones based on original trilogy, things like the Sail Barge. This is one example of that. This is all pewter, so it's relatively heavy. And if we look closely, if I can get a close-up, it's relatively well detailed. It's got two colors here for the railing and the gun. And then the rest of it is, I guess, just the regular pewter color. On the bottom, we can see it's the Sail Barge, fine pewter, 1998. So yeah, just in the time sort of leading up to the release of Episode 1, they had a lot of merchandising going on, so this is an example of that. Here's something that's very similar in scale, if not in looks. This is the Hasbro titanium model. Of course, Hasbro had a bunch of these titanium, so-called titanium ships. It's not made of titanium, that's just the name of the line. And, you know, they were all about this size, made of at least partially of metal. This, I think it's all metal, actually. And it's relatively detailed. Although, if you compare the Rawcliffe to it, I don't know, maybe it's just the fact that the titanium is painted, but this Rawcliffe seems like it's a bit more detailed. In any case, it comes with this stand, as most of them did. You can take it off if you want. And, well, that's pretty much it. This model was part of D'Agostini's line of magazines that they released. They were kind of a combination magazine and model thing you would get. Each issue would have a magazine and a model. And, you know, the magazines were nothing fantastic. They were quite short. I unfortunately don't know where mine is. This is sort of a recurring theme here. But it looks like this, and it had a few facts about the barge and a few pictures and things like that. The model itself is pretty similar to the Hasbro Titanium, although it is a little bit bigger. I don't know if you can tell. And it's also more detailed, so you can see that the railing, for example, on the Titanium is all solid. There's no holes through here, even though there should be. And on here, there are holes, mostly because I think this didn't have to be as sturdy. It wasn't actually meant to be played with. It comes in this display box, which you can open and get a little closer look at the vehicle. It's a pretty nice one, actually. This is maybe my favorite of the small models. I don't know if you can get this off the base. I don't think so. Well, I'm not going to try. It's clearly meant to be for display. It's also got a little cardboard backdrop there, which is kind of nice, I guess. Next up, we have this Hot Wheels die-cast vehicle. Now, of course, it's called the Katana, which is the actual name of the sail barge. And underneath, in smaller font, it says Jabba's Sail Barge here. This one has been very difficult to track down. If you want to try and get it on eBay even, it's relatively expensive compared to most other Hot Wheels vehicles. Every time I go to a store, I look to see if they have one of these, and they never do. I had to get this off of eBay, and consequently, I have not opened it because I was not sure if I would be able to get a second one to keep in its packaging. It does look like, if we can get a non-reflective view of it, that it's got kind of an oddly proportioned railing. It's very thick, and maybe that's how they were getting around the idea of having the holes there. You know, I mentioned with the titanium model that it was all one solid piece, presumably to avoid breakage, and I suppose they made this thicker to combat that. It also comes with this flight navigator thingy that you are meant to put on your finger, thusly, and fly it around, I guess. Not really a fantastic toy, but I would be excited to find one of these in the store. I don't think I would actually call this a high-end piece, but it's a little bit more expensive than the toys I've been showing you. This is the Star Wars Galactic Village model from Hawthorne. Hawthorne, of course, being a a place that had kind of a subscription service for various kinds of models and things like that. And you would just sign up and they would send you maybe every couple of months one of these. This one of the better ones, I guess. They also made a Jabba's Palace that I have and like pretty well. A lot of them are a little bit questionable in terms of their quality, to be frank with you. The paint on this is not fantastic, but it's alright. It looks relatively good from afar. Here we have the other side, and you can see here what appears to be an AC adapter plug. I think that's what that is. This actually has a light-up feature. You can use it on batteries or AC, I guess. And I'll show it to you right now. If you look right there, we'll turn on this switch on the bottom, and there, pushing it the wrong way. There it is. The very impressive light-up feature. I don't really know what the plan was with this one. I think some of the other ones had more impressive lights, but that is not that great. This also came with a small figure that doesn't actually fit on here, really. It's sort of meant to be displayed separately, I guess, of Leia, Slave Leia. I don't know if we can see it clearly. She's got a rather disturbing looking face. I mean, this is quite a small model, to be fair, but it's not the best paint job I've ever seen, and that's kind of typical for these Hawthorne pieces. Still, it's a nice model to have. They released several Micromachines versions of the Sail Barge, which I'm just now realizing I either can't find or don't have in my collection. So there's one from 1993 or 4 in the original line, which they also released in a silver version. And then they also released just recently, I think 2017, in the Series 3 Micromachines had a version as well. In addition to that, they had a transforming R2-D2 playset that turned into Jabba's Palace for some reason. And in his head there is another Micromachines sail barge. It's probably more or less the same as the one from the 90s. Next up we have this Micromachines Action Fleet sail barge. This was part of the Action Fleet line, which is kind of a larger and more detailed, I guess you'd call it sort of a deluxe line of Micromachines figures. So they were, bigger. They were closer to being in scale with the figures that they came with. So this one actually came with 2 figures that you could sort of place various ways. This is Yak Face. And it also came with the drink-serving R2-D2 figure. Now, this one has a number of features. You can take it off the stand here, and it has transparent wheels on the bottom you can pop out. So you can roll it around and still have it look like it's floating, which I thought was a nice touch. They don't work super well, but still. It's got, well, these sails do come off. I'm not sure if that's a feature or a bug, but they do. And we've got a moving cannon. We've got a little, I don't know, kind of a window thing here that opens up. I'm not really sure what the point of that is, frankly. These move. And the most important one, of course, is that the whole entire back end opens up to reveal Jabba himself. And he's removable as well. He's made of a kind of a soft rubber. So that's a cool one. This one is kind of similar to the vintage cardboard one I showed you at the beginning. This is the Puckett model sail barge. Now, Puckett models, I guess, were these things made of plastic card that you would punch out and put together like that, slot them together, and you could play a game with them. This has some stats of some kind. I've never actually played the game, but kind of a neat little model. They also did the skiff. Here we have something I've talked about before on the channel in the context of the Star Force knockoff space vehicle set. This one, of course, is heavily based off of the sail barge, but it's also really strange because it's got all these stickers and things that are presumably just sort of recycled from some sort of fighter jet model kit or something like that. It's got this thing on the back that you can sort of move back and forth, and it's got wheels, because of course it has wheels. It looks like it should be one of those things that you pull back and it moves, but it doesn't actually do that. You just sort of roll it around. But still, this is one of my favorites because it's just so bizarre. For a long time, if you wanted any kind of large-scale sail barge toy or collectible, going with Lego was your only choice. This is the original Lego sail barge from 2006. This is actually the store display version, so it's been hot glued in place. I did an entire video about this exact set, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. You can see that video up here in the right-hand corner. But yeah, this is definitely one of the major sail barge collectibles out there. The other one being the next set that Lego released for the sail barge in 2013. So this is the updated version. And I'm not going to go into this into too much detail either, because I plan a full review of this model, this set, hopefully not in the too distant future, but for the moment I'm just going to show it to you as something that exists, and definitely one of the major sail barge collectibles out there. Speaking of Lego, they also released this teeny tiny little sail barge as part of the 2015 Advent calendar, and I believe these were two separate days that you would open, but they have the sail barge and then, of course, a sarlacc pit that you can have it hovering on top of, so I thought that was really cute. In addition to things like toys and models and things of that nature, there are some more unusual collectibles in my collection, like this collector's plate from the Hamilton collection. I seem to be saying collection a lot. This is, of course, of the sail barge exploding at the end of the Jabba's palace sequence. I don't have a lot of these collector's plates. I never really understood collector's plates, really, why they need to be on plates, first of all. I mean, they often have nice artwork, but it seems a little weird just to have them on a plate. But in any case, if we look on the back, you can see Jabba's sail barge, part of the Star Wars Space Vehicles plate collection from the Hamilton collection. Edition limited to only 28 firing days. Wow. 1997. So that's that. It's kind of attractive, I guess, with this gold going around the outer edge and everything, but yeah, plates are not really my thing. There are a number of things like this, and I'm not going to show you all of them, things like trading cards or things of that nature, but this one was funny enough that I thought it would be interesting to look at. This one is a sort of fake gold coin that I got from a Chinese seller on eBay. On the back side, we have this sort of Oscar guy, and it says Hollywood Superstar, which of course describes the sail barge to a T. It's, yeah, basically just sort of a gold-plated fake coin with a sticker on it, but I thought it was funny. Speaking of things that I have in my collection and can't find for some reason, there's this pin that was released a year or two ago from Disney. It's in the shape of the sail barge, and then it flips open to reveal Jabba inside. It was kind of expensive, as I recall, around $30, although I got it much cheaper than that on eBay. Of course, if you've been following this channel for very long, you know that I'm rather into 3D printing at the moment anyway, and this is a model that I got from Thingiverse and 3D printed. It's not a bad little sail barge model. It prints without support on the main body itself. The sails are a bit tricky to print, I'll have to say. Not bad. This is not the kind of thing you could probably blow up much more than it already is, though. If you're interested in hearing more about a sail barge model that's going to be printed at much larger than this, stay tuned, because I have some news in that regard. But that's about all I'm going to say about that for the moment. Well, that about does it for all of the sail barge-related things in my collection, with one or two exceptions, which I will talk about in future videos. If I forgot something, or you know of a product that I didn't mention, I'd be interested to hear about it in the comments below. It's possible I already have it in my collection and I just forgot to bring it out, but if I don't know about it, I'd definitely be interested in adding it to the collection. Thanks for watching.